Greetings, fellow purveyors of fine curiosities. I enter your soft and delicate holes once again to discuss something I believe to be very important to not only the current video game landscape, but even more important for future generations of video games and gamers, which is video game emulation. Believe it or not, I've come across numerous people from all sorts of forums and comment sections that are adamant that any form of downloading software, for whatever reason, is an unforgivable crime that must be punished with a 12-inch black thunder.
Away from every meeting we have.
Well, these people can eat Cheerios out of my gaping butthole and drink all the milk after. I was recently perusing my favorite video game website, Anime, when I came upon a video that not only appealed to my fine, very well-cultured taste, but also fully engorged my 13-inch, veiny, throbbing, purple-headed mule pecker. That post-nut clarity hit me like my wife does when she interrupts my jerkmate session.
How can you stop? How can you stop? How can you stop?
I came back to my senses, I took my phone out of my ass, and started taking notes. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like booty hole Cheerios. The video in question is called The Best Emulators of 2024, and is on an absolute Chad channel called Modern Vintage Gamer. In this video, this titan of industry goes over a few emulators that made some notable advancements in the past year, including increasing their compatibility with complex titles and other similar milestones. The fact that PS3 emulation has come so far really surprised me. I wasn't really following that scene since I tend to emulate older consoles than 7th gen, and I honestly didn't think PS3 emulation had come that far. PS4 emulation is even coming along well, and it's the closest thing we're getting to Bloodborne on PC for a while. Maybe ever. All of which got me to thinking, it seems at some point, given enough time and determination, people will eventually figure out how to emulate consoles, even more recent ones like the PS4. Regardless of how you personally feel about the gray area of downloading software, music, or cars.
Can you download the Foo Fighters?
Yeah. Hold on.
Never legally download.
Emulation is very important for the preservation of video games, as well as to continue enjoying them long after their original hardware is unavailable. Which brings me to my first and maybe most important point, preservation. I would argue that preservation of almost any notable artistic endeavor is important to some degree. It doesn't matter if it's a bad video game like Big Rigs, or books like Empress Teresa, or movies like The Room.
Oh, hi, Mark.
There is a value in keeping media like this available. There are huge communities on the internet dedicated to uncovering lost media. To be honest, I couldn't give two shits about old German songs or lost McDonald's VHS tapes, but when I see an iceberg video on this stuff, I want to watch that shit. One glance at the Lost Video Games iceberg can give you an idea of just how much stuff is out there that is, in a lot of cases, gone forever. While the physical media and hardware needed to experience these games in the way they originally released will be available for quite some time, they won't be around forever. And what is available is slowly increasing in price over time. Which brings me to my next point. Price. Retro gaming is awesome. I want as many people who weren't alive during certain generations of video games to play these things. And while children are undeniably stupid, they do love video games. But price makes it almost impossible to get into on original hardware, depending on what you're interested in getting. One look at Facebook Marketplace or eBay will show you that anybody that Googled for an idea of how to price their old games are absolutely going to try to get the highest of high prices for their stuff. People act like they have a healthy kidney to sell or something. This filthy old grandma I was trying to buy an original model GBA from expected like $180 for the thing. I told her she can shove it up her dusty old cooter. I did buy her old box of used dildos though, and I made sure she didn't wash them. During the 2020 race kerfuffle, I watched old video game prices go through the roof. Everybody was treating their old consoles like piles of gold. Prices have come down a bit since then, but I would say the retro gaming hobby is prohibitively expensive, especially for a young person who isn't working full-time or maybe not working at all. Back in my day, I took the first bit of money I made from sucking dick behind the KFC to my local used stuff place, Chumley's. I bought an NES in the original box. The box was in rough shape though. 2 controllers, a zapper, and the pack-in copy of Duck Hunt and Mario Bros. For $40. A few months later, at that same place, I found a copy of the original Final Fantasy, complete in box, for $25. That was around 2008. Those are wet dream prices these days. If I fell asleep, I would wake up swimming in seed, like when I used to spend the night at my uncle's. Except that wasn't my seed. People are asking prostate massage prices for an Xbox that tries to blow itself up with leaking capacitors. As these older machines fail, and there are less and less circulating, gaming on original hardware will be relegated to the most hardcore of hardcore enthusiasts. I know it doesn't seem like it today, but as time goes on, I think these prices are going to continue to climb. It's a good thing that emulation is completely free. And don't give me shit about downloading Muppet Chaos without owning the original cartridge. I don't care.
I really just want to die.
And neither should you. If you want to play some old-ass games and they aren't for sale anymore, download them and don't feel bad about it. Don't take this as some sort of indictment on physical consoles. Retro gaming is a hobby like any other. You can spend very little on it, or you can fall down the urethra hole and spend as much as you want. You can drop $700 on a Retro Tank 4K, or you can spend $60 on a portable emulation handheld. As long as you're participating in the hobby that you enjoy, all the Nintendo power to you. With emulation, price is no longer a factor in getting into retro gaming, and getting up and running only takes a few minutes. No hunting for bargains, no repairing old hardware, just boot up RetroArch and play. As much as I love physical media, and encourage people to get physical as much as they can these days, I also pray to the baby Jesus that people are backing this media up. There's such a thing as disc rot, where CDs and DVDs that are stored in a humid climate or were maybe exposed to moisture at some point slowly start to become damaged to the point of being unreadable. Any disc-based game is susceptible to this. I know it's not a video game, but I have my favorite anime of all time on DVD, Bible Black. The disc disintegrated in my hands as I wept, succumbing to rot because of how often it was saturated in cum. This exact thing can happen to any video game pressed to a disc, even if you don't jizz on them. I used to scoff at people I knew that still bought physical movies and games. Why not just stream them or buy the digital version from the PSN store or whatever? Take all that back. In an age where publishers can just take shit away from you, if you want to keep the game for a long time, get a physical copy, or better yet, get it on your hard drive. If publishers decide to re-release a game with censorship, like Dead Rising Remake, you have the original, unaltered game. Nobody can take that from you unless they physically enter your home, beat your meat, and steal your hard drive. Another advantage of emulation is having access to your full library, no matter how often games get re-released. How many times are we expected to purchase the exact same game? I personally own a Duck Hunt and Mario Bros. NES cartridge. I have Super Mario Bros. Deluxe on Game Boy Color. I have Super Mario Bros. All-Stars on SNES. I have that stupid Mario All-Stars 25th anniversary thing on Wii. And I have a digital copy of Mario Bros. On the Wii Marketplace. I think I've spent enough on the original Mario Bros. I don't care if Nintendo wants me to subscribe to their dog shit Switch Online service. I bought the game. I'm going to put it on whatever device I want now, regardless of how many times Nintendo expects me to pay for it. I bought Donkey Kong Country Returns on the original Wii when it first came out. I skipped the 3DS version. Well, I skipped paying for it. And now, Nintendo is putting that shit out for a third time, missing some visual features, and charging full price for it again. Or I can just emulate the Wii version in full HD no less. Or I can emulate the 3DS release. Or I can even emulate the upcoming Switch release if I really want to. But I'm not going to, okay? Fuck off, Nintendo. My point is, with emulation, you can have any game you ever want without having to repurchase it every time a new generation of consoles comes out and publishers port it to the new platform. I was pretty excited to see Rogue Galaxy on the PSN store one day until I realized there's zero reason to purchase it again. Why would I? So I can play a poorly upscaled version on PS4? I'm not going to be forced to purchase the same game again and again because I can't keep 15 consoles all hooked up to my TV at once. The gameplay I have running in the background is of a game called African American, a late generation FPS developed by Criterion that released on the PS2 and Xbox. I'm running this game on an emulator called PCSX2, and if you've played it on an actual console, you'll immediately notice some differences. I'm playing this 6th gen game in widescreen at 1440p at 60 frames per second. This game was already graphically impressive when it first released in 2006, and with emulation this game can look and play better than it ever has before. You can enjoy original Wii games without jizz smeared all over the screen if you so choose. Skyward Sword still looks incredible to this day in full HD, something not possible on the original Wii. But if this is something you don't want, and you want the game to look and feel as close to the original hardware as possible, you can do that too. All of this is optional, and it's all within your control. Integer scaling makes 2D pixel games from the 8 and 16-bit era align perfectly on your screen, or you can apply screen filters and shaders to make these games look like you've never seen them before. This is only possible with emulation, and if you want to experience these old titles in a brand new way, emulation is how you do it. I never thought about how much emulation really means to me. I can have every single game I love from my childhood. All those experiences and feelings right in my pocket on a little emulation device, or when I'm homing on the couch on my Steam Deck if I want to emulate something a little more intensive. In all likelihood, physical hardware for these old games will be around for a long ass time, and disk rot won't realistically be a widespread problem in my lifetime. But someday, those consoles and discs will no longer function, like all electronics. I make a lot of jokes about my son on this channel. I haven't actually sold one of his kidneys. That's a last resort. But in all seriousness, retro gaming is something I want to share with him as he grows up. I can put a small, easily usable by small children Miu Mini in his hands and he can experience every single game I grew up with, right there at any time. A game library that could easily take up several shelves worth of space is all in this little device that I can give to anybody, friend or family, so they can play these stupid old games in the same way I did when I was a fetus. Thanks to emulation, this experience can be passed down to every generation, regardless of how long original hardware has been unavailable or unaffordable. I hope development on emulation never stops, and that someday we can perfectly emulate PS5 and Xbox One games. Even though I'm not personally nostalgic for these consoles, somebody will be. And with emulation, people growing up in this generation of gaming will forever be capable of sharing their gaming experiences that they had when they were kids, just like I can right now. Emulation allows this cycle to repeat endlessly, and I'm really thankful for that. Well, there it is. If you made it all the way to the end of this dumb video, please consider giving me a like and a subscribe. And if you hate me, then you can tell me to fuck right off. Hopefully I'll see you guys all in the next video.